DA Hochman, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
I know you have been very intentional about speaking directly to communities across the San Gabriel Valley and throughout LA County, because I know recently you just met with residents at a town hall in Rosemead to talk about public safety issues impacting our local communities. Now, for families watching at home, many of them immigrants or first-generation Americans, what's the core message you want them to hear as we head into the Lunar New Year?
Well, again, thank you very much for inviting me on. Happy New Year. Happy Year of the Fire Horse. Let me see if I can get this right. Shin Neon Kwai La.
You did better than I would.
Getting close. But in this year, a year that's going to be marked by action and transformation, as I understand it, we're going to do the same in the DA's office. We're going to act to try and transform even further our public safety. And with respect to public safety, as we get into the new year, obviously one of the first issues we want to make sure is that people's own personal public safety, their financial public safety, is one that they are well aware needs to be protected, and we will work hard to protect as well. So as people enter the new year, I know a tradition is often to deal with cash and present it in red envelopes to other individuals. Unfortunately, the criminals also understand this. So we ask people to particularly safeguard if they end up either carrying cash, bringing cash to someone, or receiving it from someone, to make sure they understand their surroundings. In certain urban settings, often people will be looking to look for these red envelopes or people carrying the cash. And if you're aware of your surroundings, you'll make sure that you don't become eventually a victim of some of these thieves. Now, we're taking the message to the thieves to understand that if you want to engage in this criminal conduct, we're going to arrest you, we're going to prosecute you, and you will be punished. The consequences are real, and you will be held accountable for your actions. So we're strongly encouraging the people even considering committing criminal conduct not to do it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you recently warned about organized burglar crews, not just individual criminals, using technology like Wi-Fi signal jammers. Can you explain how sophisticated these crews have become and why this is no longer just a petty theft issue, but something your office treats as an organized crime?
So you're absolutely right. When it comes to residential burglaries, yes, there can be the sort of very straightforward one where they try and come in your house randomly. They just pick your house out and they try to come into your house or apartment. However, there are some sophisticated street gangs. And one of the things they'll look at is your social media. So if you're putting on your social media when you're leaving town, or you're showing pictures of you on vacation on your social media, they generally know you're not home. If you put pictures of yourself on your social media wearing expensive jewelry, or carrying expensive purses, or having expensive clothes, or even having guns or cash on you, again, you're advertising yourself to the crooks, and they will go where the money is. So one of the things they use for sophisticated both surveillance and to eventually commit the crime is they might try to jam any Wi-Fi in your house. The Wi-Fi often controls ring cameras and surveillance cameras. So people who are actually able to get hard lines, not based on Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, but it's sort of based into your landlines, they can't jam those. People who have alarm systems, one of the greatest tragedies often with these residential burglaries is that people didn't turn on their alarm system when they left the house. They either forgot to or they got in the habit of not doing it. You have an alarm system, please use it. And the most important, one of the greatest deterrents I have found against these residential burglars are your neighbors. The neighborhood needs to work together. They need to understand who generally is on the street and who's not. So if you see a car that looks like it's going from house to house, surveilling who's home and who's not home, take down the license plate. Don't try to be a police officer yourself, but take down the license plate, call your local police station, let them know what's going on. If you have a neighborhood watch, call the neighborhood watch captain and let them know what's going on. Because when neighborhoods work together, that's how they become the least desirable target for residential burglars.
Mhm. Now, law enforcement is advising residents to hardwire security systems and rethink how they protect their homes. Now, from the DA's perspective, your perspective, how important is prevention compared to prosecution, and how does your office step in once a crime crosses that line?
So probably one of our greatest focuses is you can call it prevention, we call it deterrence. So what I'm trying to do is make it clear to criminals that if you do these criminal actions, unlike what happened before I got here for the 4 years of my predecessor, Gascon, when criminals didn't feel that there were consequences for their actions, I've brought back consequences, I brought back accountability. So we're trying to deter the criminals directly. Where ordinary people, residents, can help us do that is by making their house or their business the least desirable place to go ahead and rob, which means if your surveillance cameras are not on Wi-Fi, they can't jam them. You know, if you keep your doors locked, if you keep your gates locked, if you turn on the alarm systems, and you have the signs out in front that says this house has an alarm system or this apartment has surveillance, you become the less desirable place to go ahead and rob. So the robber might very well look at your home or your apartment and move on to the next one or move out of the neighborhood entirely, because both they know that it's very difficult to rob your house and not get caught, and they know that if they do get caught, they will be held accountable for their actions and end up in jail or prison.
Mm-hmm. And I know your office launched a retail theft task force, and you have emphasized partnerships with local police departments. For viewers who hear task force and wonder what that actually means, what's different now compared to before?
So what's different is that there were certain types of theft crimes that the DA's office actually wasn't prosecuting. If you were under 18 and you stole just under $950, the prior DA said he was not going to prosecute you. I have taken the exact opposite approach. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that if you steal or commit any crime, you're going to be prosecuted. But then I'm going to actually look at each case individually to determine what the punishment should be. So if you're someone who's been convicted many times for theft and you want to do it again, you're going to end up in jail or prison. If you're a first-time offender, there might very well be something other than prison that we might be seeking for you. Maybe it's community service, restitution, pay back whatever you stole. Or if you have a serious drug addiction, we might do our best to see if you go into a program to deal with the drug addiction. It's rigorous, 18 months. And if you pass that program, you get a certificate and the crime gets dismissed. If you don't pass that program or you choose otherwise, you'll go to jail.
Mm-hmm. Now, you have also been very clear about using Prop 36 to hold repeat offenders accountable. We know your office has filed over 1,600 felony cases under this law, but you have also raised concerns about funding. Now, walk us through that tension.
Sure. Proposition 36 passed the same day that I got elected, November 5th of 2024. The idea behind Proposition 36 is it was going to go after the chronic and repeat thieves. These are people with 2 or more prior convictions for theft, and that didn't deter them, and now they're stealing a third or more time. Turns out that about 10% of the criminals are committing about 50% of the crimes. So Proposition 36 basically said, let's go after these repeat offenders, and no longer would it be misdemeanors, a low-level crime. You're actually going to be able to file against these repeat offenders Proposition 36 theft-related felonies. A felony will get you in state prison. A felony will not get you caught in the morning and out by the afternoon. You're going to serve some jail time often as you wait to go through the process. And this has been sending a very loud message to these repeat offenders. As you mentioned, we have prosecuted over 1,600 of these repeat offenders in 2025 alone. And we find that, again, this additional tool that we've been given has made small business people and even the big stores like your Walmarts and your Home Depots much more secure and much more able to tell their customers that anybody, or the people who have been basically ripping us off a lot for years now are actually going to be held accountable for their actions.
DA Hochman, you have said very directly that the era of catch and release is ending. Now, for families who have lost trust in the system, what does that actually look like day to day inside your office?
So I'm in charge of the largest local prosecuting office in the United States. We have 2,100 employees, over 800 prosecutors. We do over 180,000 criminal cases every day. So the message I have sent to those prosecutors is that I will no longer put any hurdles in place for them doing their job. They bring collectively thousands of years of prosecutorial experience to the job, and they are some of the most talented and experienced prosecutors in the nation. So I've identified 6 priority areas, whether it's residential burglary, organized retail theft, homeless crime, hate crimes, human trafficking, or fentanyl poisoning. And we're focusing in particular on those issues because that's what the public, when I was meeting, I have been meeting with the public, hundreds and hundreds of people across this county, those are the issues that have affected their life right now. And what I'm telling you is that we are now bringing this era of accountability back. I'm working hand in glove with law enforcement. That was a relationship that was often strained for 4 years, where the prior DA was more interested in prosecuting law enforcement officers than in partnering with them. I'm partnering with them because ultimately, only with such a strong partnership between the DA's office and law enforcement can you successfully go after the criminals and bring a huge measure of public safety to the community.
Mm-hmm. Now, many victims in the AAPI community actually hesitate to report crimes. There are language barriers, cultural barriers, and sometimes fear. How's your office working to make sure victims feel supported, not ignored once they come forward?
So I would say very, very strongly to members of the AAPI community, please report the crimes. I get why you didn't do it in the past. You might have thought, well, the DA's office isn't prosecuting, so why should I report? Or you might be a little fearful that if you report a hate crime, that maybe somehow you're going to put yourself in more jeopardy. What I will tell you is if we don't know about the crime, we can't do anything about it. So we've been working with law enforcement to make sure that they have language capabilities as we do in my office, so that if you don't speak English, for instance, as it's not your first language, they have people who speak the various languages, whether it's Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Tagalog, any of the different languages in the AAPI community. And so you should be able to report that crime when it occurs. And that's the only chance we then have to go after the criminal. Because the chances are, if you've been a victim of a crime and nothing happened to the person who victimized you, they're going to do it again and again and again until the community basically says enough is enough and goes ahead and reports those crimes and lets us do our job and basically putting these people out of business.
Now, as district attorney, I know success isn't always visible right away. A year from now, how should communities across LA County measure whether these public safety efforts are actually working?
There's probably 2 ways to measure the effectiveness of public safety. One is statistics. It's not my favorite way to do it, but the statistics from 2025 show that crime is moving in a downward direction across all different types of crime. So, for instance, the Los Angeles Police Department reported that they had a multi-decade low in homicides in LA City during the year of 2025. They also reported that in almost every category of crime, property crimes, violent crimes, auto thefts, those type of crimes, that they saw significant double-digit decreases in crime. So that's one way you can measure it. Although if you're a victim of crime, you don't care about the statistics because you're 100% the victim, not just 11%. So what I would also say is that part of the effectiveness is people's personal interactions with the justice system. That if it happens that they have a crime and they're a victim of a crime, did the justice system work with them to try and find the person that committed the crime and bring that person to justice? And did they do it in a timely way? My office has a Bureau of Victim Services that speak all the different languages. So if someone reports a crime and we bring a case, we'll make sure a victim service representative works with the witnesses and the victims to explain the process to them, which is often a difficult process, be with them when they go to court, and make sure that even though we're asking them to do a lot, which is to come in and testify about what happened to them, that we get them through that process as smoothly and comfortably as possible. So this is how I should be measured when we hopefully have this conversation in a year's time. Statistically, are the numbers continuing to go down? And anecdotally, sort of in the personal experience, did people hopefully have good experiences with the criminal justice system during that year?